All right, so we are starting this series of videos from scratch. So I was working on this, and there's actually slapback echo because there's two input sources apparently on OBS, which I guess worked the first time I was doing videos using OBS, but now it doesn't work anymore with the latest updates. I don't know why I had two input sources. I had screen capture and also had Mac OS, not screen capture. Yeah, Mac OS screen capture for the audio, and also had just audio input. So I'm going to launch my Presentify here, and we'll do my highlight cursor. So this song is called The Art of Making Out in the Rain. I'm going to just catch you up to speed from the previous videos because I have to just throw them all out. So we imported the tracks. We imported two sets of tracks. We imported raw audio, which I'm going to play here, or rather the dry, unaffected tracks. It's not very loud as we can hear. And then we also uploaded the actual affected tracks. So you can say these are from the demo. So I've imported these. I have gain staged these a bit. I need to actually consolidate these here. We can see here we have the same for the pads. We have the dry tracks here. We have the track from the demo. And so the effects, as we can hear, a little bit more unwieldy. We have another pad here for layering. This is actually a little bit lower and more muted. We actually might blend this in differently at the end. We color coded our tracks except for this one, which is a little slightly off here. There we go. Now that's going to be the same color as these. This is the affected pad for pad number 2. It's pad number 1, so that's dry. Now I'm adding effects back in. Here's the actual demo. Similar, I probably could have kept the demo, but we have the bass here. It's actually not bad on its own, but I did a little bit of processing on it. And then the kicks are right here. And then the kicks I might replace, but I did kind of fatten them up a bit so far. We've got our snare. It's actually a true stereo sample, so I did get all these as multi-mono or stereo files, so I actually had to figure out which ones were multi-mono and get rid of the right channel because it's identical to the left channel. And then here, the stereo is actually a true stereo sample, so that was kept here in this case. Same with the claps. They were mostly the same, but they weren't truly identical left and right channels. So I initially thought it was multi-mono, but it's actually a stereo, a true stereo file. And there's the second clap here. It's the same thing. It's a true stereo file as well. You can even see that here in the meters too. So while these look identical here in the meters, when I tried to do a null test, they didn't null. Go figure. Kind of close, but not close enough for me to consider just getting rid of the right channel to make it truly mono. We have hi-hat, also another true stereo file. So something interesting, you might hear a little bit of reverb on these samples, but these actually came back as actual stereo files. Sorry, these actually came in with no effects on them. So even the demo, they were completely dry. So these are actual samples. Sounds like they have just a tad of reverb on them, but I'm not going to worry about it. This is a mono file, as you can see here. So now what we have so far for our setup, again, I'm not going to do another 5 videos in terms of how I set this all up because those recordings didn't come out great. Let me see here. I just want to see something on our timing for this video. Oh, we still only gotten 5 minutes into this. So obviously I imported I used my session template and I deleted a lot of stuff. So this sort of plucked synth, I used just the guitar. I used the guitar tracks for my template. So those are being routed there. I'm going to get rid of this decapitator plugin because it caused a lot of problems in the last video. It actually froze up Pro Tools. Everything, the screen was glitching, and it took me forever to close everything out and reset my computer, restart it. So we are no longer going to be using decapitator on this session. Not that we were ever planning to, which reminds me I should probably update my Soft2 plugins, or at least the decapitator plugin. So anyhow, so we're going to get rid of this. So where we left off in the last video, actually let me go back here. I have already set up what I'm going to use for my effects sends and the plugins for the effects. As we can see here, drums I haven't done yet. In fact, I might work on the drums first because those came in dry. The samples came in dry with no effects on them, but as you can hear, the way they were recorded, the actual dry samples you can hear just a tiny bit of reverb on them. So now we have some creative choices to make. How much of the demo are we going to keep in terms of the demo tracks? So these are the tracks with effects already printed on them. And then also, which dry tracks are we going to work with instead of that? And are we going to do any blending? So what I want to do first is actually look at the drums, which I was kind of doing in a previous video, which again I have to redo all this from scratch because there's slapback delay on the older videos. So if I look at the drums, and before I go into this, you'll see this plugin on a number of different you'll see this plugin actually here, the API Vision channel strip, as the particular you'll see this a lot. I was trying different channel strips, Neve, SSL, and the API, and this one, the API just made the most sense in terms of the direction I think this particular project needs to go in. It just works. Not poo-pooing or not saying that the Neve and the SSL plugin emulations aren't great emulations. They just don't make sense for the direction that this piece wants or needs to go in. So we're going to be using API predominantly here. You'll even see in some cases potentially I have experimented with putting in a console channel emulation, and here we can see this when I did different testing, or I was doing listening tests between an SSL E and G channel, a API, a Neve, a Trident, and an RC tube console channel emulation. The API again won. Again, they all have their strengths, and I'd say they're only really strengths because you're dealing with characteristics. But again, for direction of this piece, API made the most sense. So let's look at the kick drum here. So the kick drum without any effects put on it. It's thin. It's kind of pokey, right? And I don't like that. So if we put this in the mix, I think that's going to annoy the listener. So what I did was, interestingly enough, I used this. Not sure, but I might try the VMR, Virtual Mix Rack by Slate. Not too many Slate plugins that I use, but I do use the VMR, particularly for their virtual console channel emulations, and also for their master bus channel emulations as well. So I do use that for that purpose, and I do use their distressor plugin. Other than that, there's not too many Slate plugins I use, but I like their distressor. I like their virtual channel, console channel emulations, and virtual bus channel emulations. And I even actually their Focusrite Red plugin emulation plugin, I should say, is actually really good. I like it on a lot of rock stuff. Probably won't be using it on this particular track or in this particular project. So I did with this API plugin here. If you could listen to the kick drum without it, pretty thin, a little too pokey. Now I'm adding some breadth, some some oomph versus like a, you know, so punch versus getting hit by a punch versus a stick, right? So here I added a bypass, or sorry, the high pass is about roughly 15, and then it's not attacking the compressor at all. I did add quite a bit of bass, as we can see here. I turned it up to 12. So learn to mix with your ears, learn to mix with your heart, not so much with your mind. I know some people say that's crazy. You're not supposed to do that. Well, it works. I didn't touch anything else on here. I don't think it needs. I know some mixers will experiment with boosting the high end. Yeah, I don't like that ringing that I hear, so I'm leaving it at that. Interesting. There's nothing on the threshold here. It's bassier here. We hear some of the higher end overtones. There's not really much for me to do with this. It sounds like this came in with a little bit of compression on it already. Let's look at the meters. It's a little bit of tone control going from fast to the medium if you listen to the higher end overtones. Almost sounds like it goes up in pitch a little bit. Definitely when you go on the fast setting. I think I'm happy with medium or slow on this, really. We don't have any of this going on, so we're going to do that here. We're going to leave this alone. And then, I don't know if we need to put any parallel compression on this. I just don't know. We might have it go through some parallel processing for sure. A kick. No, let's go have it go through here. Maybe, what would I put? I think something kind of tape based would make the most sense. I'm not going to use the decapitator because I'm afraid it's going to screw up my session again. The black box, I don't think it makes sense either. So let's just do that here. So we're going to start another video here soon.